Okay, so we've got the intro, so, or pardon me, we've got the story, most of it, a lot of it anyways covered. I think the best thing for an intro would be to basically try and prove the story and the statements that I'm going to make true in the first place. So, that's what I'm going to try and do.
Okay.
Dr. Mano of the Brandon Center for Adult Psychiatry, you and your lawyers have threatened me in writing with charges of slander if I continue to make my story and my accusations towards you public. And basically, you've put the ball in my court, and I think what I'm going to do in this case is just put it back in your court. So, I guess the way that I see it, now you have the options. You and your lawyers have basically, in my point of view, two options. First option, you can file charges of slander against me. We go to a court of law. My story is told under oath, the entire thing, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but, including my experiences with other members of Manitoba Health, including Dr. Sandhu. Option number two, I would say, is to the same option every person has, is basically to remain silent. And in that case, I would be willing to say that that option would definitely mean that the story that I'm saying is true. There's not really another way to say it. The other thing that I wanted to say is to the public, the people of Canada, because of the seriousness of what has happened to me and the fact that it could have happened to others, the people of Canada definitely have the right to hear this story. At the same time, because of the content, it may not be exactly appropriate for everyone. So just a reminder that you have the choice to hear the story. And one last thing that I wanted to say was actually to the captain, the leader of the team, Justin Trudeau. To make a short story, or pardon me, to make a long story short, Justin, what happened to me was a medical mistake, but in order to cover up the mistake, the doctors involved literally used me as a sacrifice. And that's fine to an extent. I'm not exactly happy about it, but on the other hand, I'm kind of happy that it happened to me and not someone else. But the thing is that there were a lot of people in that facility that could have suffered the same thing that I did. And in the end, no matter who it was, the doctors would have made the same decision to sacrifice them the same way they did me. And that is my concern. In terms of Dr. Mano filing charges of slander against me, that's fine, like I said, but I'll help you out with that one. At this point in time, I am more than willing and more than capable of doing a no holds barred 100%, the entire story, everything that I went through with any member of the press in Canada. I think I've said, one more thing just to Justin. The reason why I've come forward to you is simply because you're the leader of the team, and this is an issue that, in my opinion, you need to hear. Mm-hmm. And that's about it. And I know, Dr. Bretecher, I said before we did this interview that I would thank you, which I did, and thank you.
You're welcome.
And that's it.
Okay. Yeah, and this is Dr. Bretecher, and I've been a family physician for Sean Larson for a lengthy period of time, and what we will be hearing is his story as to his past experiences and how he feels this has affected him.
Yeah, that's a good start. I think what I want to say is that I'm coming forward for two reasons. One is for myself, to get this out and and to hopefully heal from it by doing so. And then the other thing is too, I do feel concerned for the public. I do think that the public should hear this story. So that's a good entry. So where do we start? I guess with admittance to Brandon Center for Adult Psychiatry.
Yeah, I think you want to start with where you feel the
Well, yeah,
problem
the
originated
incident.
and how it ended up you getting into psychiatric care.
Yeah, well, I was definitely in a manic state, and then there was periods of depression, and I'd been dating a girl for a while, and she just put it to my attention one time. She put a piece of paper in front of me, and it had the symptoms of bipolar, and it's just nailed it right on the head. Like, I had, I don't know, probably 75% of whatever they were talking about, like the periods of going, on and on, like, with certain things or whatever it was.
Like too much energy.
Yeah. So it ended up, I saw a psychiatrist who referred me and said, if you want help, I can refer you or get you into the Brandon Center for Adult Psychiatry. And that is what I wanted. I wanted help. Like, I knew there was a problem, and I knew I'm gonna have to check myself in somewhere in order to take care of it. It's not gonna be a simple thing, and I knew I had to devote some time to it. And so I ended up checking myself into Brandon Center for Adult Psychiatry, and it wasn't long. Like, we're not talking terms of months or anything like that. That they were on the opinion that I kept complaining that I was fatigued in the morning, tired in the morning. Oh,
Okay,
yeah, I can stop that. I'll just stop it and start over. Okay, what was that? What was I saying?
We were just talking about you had checked yourself into the Adult Psychiatry Center in Brandon.
Uh-huh.
And you weren't there that long.
Oh, okay.
You were
Fatigued. I wasn't there that long. I was complaining about being tired in the morning. And the one nurse from Brandon, he was a big tall guy, he was the biggest guy there. And his exact words, he said to me, like, well, if you're tired in the morning, you could be depressed and not even know it. Like, I don't know how to say it. That sounds so stupid now, but at the time, like, I'm thinking, like, I'm in the best of hands here, like, and it does kind of make sense, like, yeah, a guy who's depressed probably would be a little bit tired, so I said, well, okay, what do we do? And they asked me what I wanted. I said, well, I want to live a normal life. That was it. And they said ECTs, electroshock therapy.
But
was my only option.
The male nurse then that
was the male nurse that was suggested it.
Not the psychiatrist?
No, not a psychiatrist. Maybe so. We talked about it after, I'm sure, but initially it was
so that's
nurse.
how it came about.
Yeah, there was a group of nurses that were actually there. There was 2 or 3, I think, when they were sitting down and talking to me. I mean, things were fine. Like, I'm in there, but I mean, like, I'm fine, like, to watch TV, or, like, Wayne came in there, like, to play shuffleboard or pool. Like, it wasn't that bad. Like, I don't even know how to say it. Like, it turned into a nightmare after, but...
So you were still functional. There were some manic symptoms you're saying.
Oh, yeah, but, like, the thing is, in terms of depression, like, it's kind of odd. Like, I had a girlfriend, at the time that I cared about, like, dogs, like, there was nothing really to be depressed about. The only thing that I'd been complaining, the same thing I'd been complaining about for, 20 years almost, or 15 anyways, like chronic fatigue and tired all the time. So, I wanted to live a normal life, and ECTs, that's fine. I actually don't have a problem with the ECTs. It's not the ECT that did the damage to me. We're talking about an overdose. So the first 3 ECTs that I had, I was admitted in September of 2002. So whenever they started the treatment for ECTs, I'm not sure of an exact date. And the last thing I'm going to do is go through my Brandon file, because it'll just initiate PTSD even more.
Yeah, no, it's not like the dates, the exact dates.
Yeah, no, no, I'll never be exact on the dates, even if I was to look at them. So, anyways, the first from 3 that I went through, there was no problems. Like, I have memories of them putting me down. Like, there was 2 nurses all the time, and a doctor and the anesthetist. And on the fourth one, instead of having any memories from the ECT, like getting back to my room or them putting me out or anything like that, the last memory that I have is Dr. Mano. Like, she used to have either her hand on my shoulder or her hand on my hand, because I was scared to go under.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether she had her hand on my hand or on my shoulder on that particular one, but there was no memory of getting back to my room. I woke up paralyzed in my bed, and it was instant. Like, I was on my back, number one, and it was instant panic. As soon as I opened my eyes, it was just panic.
You knew there was something wrong?
No, there was something wrong instantaneously, but I felt like drugged, like completely drugged, just moving my head up and down just slowly, but that was all I could do. And I waited, like, I tried moving and moving and moving, like, I'm exhausted as it is, but you know, it got to a point where I'm telling myself, get up, and it would be like that in my own head, like, you know, get up, get up.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
What's going on?
And all of a sudden, it's like, we've talked about this before, like, it's a louder version or voice, whatever it is. I don't know if it's my voice or if it's just a voice. Get up now. And I listened to that voice, and I never thought, oh, well, this is God, or this is me, or he's right. Whoever it is, right.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not saying that it wasn't my own voice, but I don't, even looking back at it now, I don't recognize it as my voice. Okay, yeah, this stupid camera. Okay, so I was like, get up now. And I knew that voice was right. Like, didn't matter whose it was, it's right. But the problem was, like, I knew I couldn't get up now. So I came to the conclusion, instead of sitting or laying there on my back and trying to move, I'm going to rest as best that I can and give it one good, you know, effort to get up. Like, I'm flat on my back, I have to raise myself up somehow. And I waited probably in the neighborhood of 2 to 3 minutes that I waited in terms of rest. So, okay, try it again. We'll just keep trying it until it keeps going. I don't care. Yeah, no, I won't edit it. But okay, so anyways, I managed to raise myself up, like, maybe. Yeah, okay, new battery. So we left off on the 4th ECT. I woke up paralyzed, and like I said, when I left off, like, I ended up waiting for about 2 to 3 minutes and recuperating as best that I could. And then it was an all-out effort, 100%, like, just to try and lift my body up. And initially I didn't move, but after about 1 to 2 seconds, my body started to rise, and maybe within 5-6 seconds in total, I just collapsed right onto my right side. And that was it. I could not move. I couldn't talk. Like, I'm sitting there or laying there, and I'm waiting for help, and no help came. Like, the ECT was given to me at 6 o'clock in the morning, or 6:30, whatever. Breakfast is somewhere around the neighborhood of 8 o'clock. Well, okay, I can understand, well, maybe he's resting or recuperating from the ECT or whatever, you know. But come lunchtime, like, I didn't know what time it was. I'm just laying there, but I mean, it's still daylight, and I know I've been up for quite a while, and nobody's coming, and I'm just waiting there for help. I can't say nothing, I can't do nothing, I can't move my feet, can't move my arms.
You don't have the strength to even talk, you're saying?
I couldn't talk. If I would have yelled out.
Yeah.
There was nothing I could do. It comes to the time where it starts to turn dark, like, in the room, like, you know, there's sunlight coming through the window. It turns dark and still nobody's coming. And by this time, like, I have to go to the bathroom. Like, you know, that's one thing I could feel, at least, you know, in my body.
Like, sensation there. I mean, the bladder must have been getting pretty darn full.
Oh, I'm waiting, and like I said, it was already dark, and I just came to the conclusion, like, nobody's coming to help me. Like, it's past, like, time, like, for bed probably by this time. Just go. And that's what I did. And I don't know, I pissed myself. What else can you say?
You can't get up.
No, you know, and I still to this day, like, you know, I can remember it exactly, like, you know, how warm it was going down my leg. Like, for Christ's sake.
And you still couldn't move your extremities?
I couldn't move nothing. Still couldn't talk. I still couldn't nothing. That was all I had, was that one big push, and that was it. I was done. And the night rolled, like I was awake the entire time. Nobody came to check on me, man, like no one. It comes time, like there's light coming in from the next morning.
Yeah.
Nobody came to get me for breakfast. And then it wasn't until after lunch that I could finally move. I ended up getting up. I turned over and got up and sat on the bed for just a little bit. I'm pouring sweat. My heart's just pounding. And I'm exhausted.
And this is the next morning now.
This is the next morning. This is like literally 30 hours later.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I get up and I make my way to the bathroom, because the bathroom's right. We got a bathroom in the room. Well, I clean myself off as best as I can, and the only thing I can do is, like, I gotta get out of here. Like, I need some fresh air or something. And I'm fucking dead, man. Like just dead on my feet. Like, what's going on here? And I walk out, and then you have to walk down the hallway. The staff members, it was the same staff members that were present when that ECT took place.
Please.
They were there. They wouldn't even look at me. They didn't say nothing. They didn't nothing. Like
Just
nothing.
Ignore you.
They just turned a blind eye, put their heads down, and just didn't do nothing. Never said a word to me. I went out, had my smoke, which was, I don't know, man. In terms of relieving the pain that I was in, like overall, like a lot of the days, the only relief that I got was the first few drags off that cigarette.
The nicotine,
whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
But the rest of the cigarette, it's just like, oh my God, why did I walk out here, you know?
Yeah.
But it was horrible, like, and I'm assuming that I didn't get out of my bed much for the next 4 days. Like, you know, I don't even know if I ate. I don't remember eating, that's for sure. But in terms of sleep, I couldn't tell you. I might have gotten a couple hours here and there, but in the next 4 days, like, they gave me another ECT. And then 4 days later, they gave me another one.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is it was never explained to me, like, in the process of ECTs, that they paralyze you. Like, I didn't know that. Otherwise, well, I would have figured it out after the 4th ECT. Well, a guy wakes up paralyzed. Well, then I would have associated it with it.
Yeah, at least you had some idea.
But, so, I don't understand how it is that the first ECTs that they gave me, they were fine. Like, there was no change in me, no nothing, and no paralysis. Like, how do they make a mistake where a person is supposed to be paralyzed basically for 30 minutes, and I end up being paralyzed for 30 hours? Like, how does that happen?
I don't know. The only thing that makes sense to me is that there was neglect there, that they weren't checking on you.
Well, no, that's that part, yeah. But I mean, just in terms of like the actual drug that they gave me, like, how in the world did they screw that up?
As far as the drugs, then you think that that you either you were hypersensitive to the anesthetic, not the ECT.
Oh, I
treatment,
see.
Okay, or they gave you they somehow misjudged the amount of anesthetic they gave you.
Yeah,
because it's the muscle relaxant that paralyzed you, it's not the ECT treatment.
No, yeah, I know that, but it just seems odd that, like, wouldn't they just give you the same dose each and every time? Like,
that's a natural thing.
Yeah.
Now, was there a mistake made? That's what you wonder. You know.
Wow.
Not intentional, but
no, I'm not saying that it was intentional.
But there was an accidental mistake in the dose.
No, I've never said that it was intentional. I believe
and it's easy
that it was
to do. Like those drugs, often they're giving you, say they give you 0.1 of a mil. It's supposed to be, say, of the drug, say that'd be 0.1 cc.
Yeah.
And if they crank it to 1 cc instead, well, that means like all of a sudden you're getting 10 times what you should be. So it's pretty easy to make, to jump like that sometimes. Not, if you're just not careful, the anesthetist was rushing or something.
Yeah.
It's hard to know. I'm not saying that happened, but that's you try and make sense out of it.
Yeah.
Why would you be paralyzed for 30 hours?
Well, we were talking before about there was something that they could have given me to reverse the effects, though.
But then they had to identify it. Yeah. And you're saying, you see, like when you wake up, if the anesthetist was still happy that, okay, we expect Sean to still be paralyzed for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll just let him go to the recovery or to his room to recover, thinking everything's okay. If nobody actually checks on you, well, then then they don't pick up the problem.
Yeah, but the thing is like, how did I get back to my room? There's no memory.
Oh, they had to. I'm sure they must have by stretcher,
Yeah.
and then they would have transferred you over
Yeah.
two orderlies or a nurse and an orderly.
Well, yeah.
Would have transferred you onto your bed.
Well, that was the thing too. Like, I knew instantly, like when I woke up after that ECT, that something was wrong, just for the fact that I was on my back. At that time, I'd never slept on my back. I always on my side, always on my side.
When you woke up, you were flat on your back.
I was flat on my back.
And that's usually the way. If you're transferring somebody from a stretcher to a bed or a bed to a stretcher, that's usually the way you do. You put the sheet underneath them. You use the sheet to carry you, and lay you flat on your back. Unless there's some, if they want to protect your airway, then they'll turn you on your side.
Yeah. Well, I read in my Brown and file after the 4th ECT. I hardly read any of that file because, like I said, like I don't want to delve into it, but like they said that they checked on me, and it appeared that I'd been sleeping like the entire day. Like that does not, like, for 24 hours and then plus the night, like it just doesn't make sense. Like, why wouldn't they come and at least say, well, wake him up for maybe not lunch, but I mean the guy is still out cold.
Even I would say even at lunch.
Yeah, even
I
at lunch
that
too.
After 1 to 2 hours, they should have been checking on you.
They never checked.
I don't know
once.
what time it was that they brought you back to your room, but I'd say I'd even say an hour you should have been checked on.
I wasn't. There's no way. So I don't know what to say on that, but like in terms of neglect, we'll talk about neglect in a bit, but like instantaneously, like after, like, once I wasn't paralyzed and I could sit up and managed to walk out, like the amount of sweat, the heartbeat, like I could feel my heart just pounding. And when they took my blood pressure, I forget when it was, like soon after, like my blood pressure is completely screwed up, like it's in the 80s over the 40s, and my heart rate resting is over 120 beats. Like it stayed like that for God knows how many months, like and it was no better, like even, I don't know, let's say way down the line, like the worst blood pressure reading I had in there was 77 over 37 with a resting heartbeat of 135 beats a minute. And this is like a long time after. This is long after I tried to end my life to try to get out of the pain.
How fast was the heart rate?
It was 135 beats a minute. Resting. And I'm sitting there pouring sweat, and I look at Gary and I said, what's going on? Like, why is it? And he puts his head down. It's depression. And I got upset. I was like, oh, everybody in here is depressed. Nobody's like this. Sweat's pouring down. But anyways, I'm getting off topic because we got to go back to the 4th ECT.
Yes.
They gave me 2 more, and to be honest, I did get some sleep, like within the time period before I got discharged. I felt a little bit better, so I checked myself out. But the thing is I was asking them, like, why, like, I'm exhausted, like, my body is this, my body is that, what's going on? And they kept telling me it was depression and that I had to help myself. Well, I'm so weak, the only thing that I can think of is, well, I'll check myself out and maybe I can work it out on myself.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I thought is, well, I'll try and go to the gym. I used to be into bodybuilding. Well, how do you get stronger? You go to the gym. Well, I go to the gym, and the thing is before that ECT, the girl that I was dating, she had a kid and a child, and he was 9 years old. He's probably a minimum of 75 pounds. Like he was a muscular kid, like, very muscular kid for his age. And we would play this game, like I'd lie on the bed and I'd put my hand out and he would balance himself, arms out, legs out, and, rest his chest or his stomach, on me, on my hand, and I would bench press him up and down. I go to the gym, like I went on a Monday.
Yeah.
I go into the gym to try and, like, get some strength back. And my God, there's no strength whatsoever. By the 3rd set of my bench presses, like I do a set, and I warmed up. I thought, well, I'll put 15 kilograms aside on. I mean, that's nothing for me. Like I thought anyways. Yeah. And I'll warm up with it, and I'll just go to 225. And I had no idea that my muscles had been affected like that. I ended up doing 115 pounds basically is what it was. I did it 8 times, and it was like I couldn't do it anymore. Like,
which is way less than your
normal
capacity.
Like I'm benching a kid that's 75 pounds before the ECT with one arm, and then it was by the third set, like there was no recuperation whatsoever. I'm taking 5 to 6 minutes of time between sets, and it's the most humiliating thing. But I went onto a Smith machine, which is easier than just a regular bar. It's balanced for you. You just push it up and click the things in. 45-pound bar, and I couldn't do it. I'm sitting there and I could do a couple reps, and then there's a guy there who's literally about 120 pounds. He was a guy that I know from the gym.
Yeah, a little wee guy.
Little wee guy. And he's helping me with the bar, and I'm pushing as hard as I can. And I'm exhausted. I can't do it. The next day, I remember that night, I actually did get a couple hours of sleep. I went to my apartment, and I probably got about 2 to 3 hours. And I'm determined, like, I'm going to make myself better. So I go in the next day to train shoulders. All I did was lateral raises. I could barely do anything. Wow. I ended up doing just my arms, like just lifting my arms up, like,
That was all you could do?
That was all I could do. And then on the Wednesday, that night I didn't sleep whatsoever. On the Wednesday I tried to train legs, and I couldn't even squat my body weight. I put it on the Smith machine, I did a few leg extensions, and just done. I remember going down the steps, like, the leg extension was upstairs, and it was a really easy leg extension, but I go downstairs, and I get underneath the Smith machine, and I can't even squat my own body weight. I think I did it maybe 2 or 3 times, and there was nothing that I could do. I tried the hack squat, and the same thing. I couldn't do it, and I knew right then and there something's wrong here.
Yeah. The outcome wasn't what it should have been.
Well, no. Like, how do you go from being strong like that to instantaneously having no power whatsoever?
To me, it's muscle paralysis. The only thing that makes sense, knowing what had happened to you.
Yeah, well, my muscles still to this day are completely screwed, but I don't know what to say. So I was on the opinion, well, I'm still depressed. That's what they were telling me in there, like, you're depressed, like, it affects you physically. So I checked myself back in there, and by this time, like, I'm not sleeping whatsoever. And I'm not coming out of my room. The only time that I'm coming out of my room is for smokes and maybe the odd time to eat. Like, I'm lucky if I averaged one meal per day at that point in time. Like, I was in my bed on my right side, like, almost all the time. The odd time, like, you have to get up. Like, doesn't matter, like, how exhausted. Like, a guy has to get up and get out, and that stupid cigarette, it was the only reason why I got out.
Did you get out?
But it was the same thing every time that I had a cigarette. My room was at one end, and you have to walk the long hallway, and then the game room, and then outside for the smoking area. And it was the same thing every time. I'd have those first 2 drags or first 3 drags off the smoke, and then it just tasted like crap. And it's just, why in the world did I do this? Now I got to walk all the way back. And this went on for months, Bretecher.
That long?
Oh no, it went on for months where I wasn't coming out of my room. I couldn't. And anyways, it just got to a point where, like, I'd been in this position for months, and the pain in my body and the exhaustion is just, it's too much, and I'm just non-stop. How do I get out of this? What can I do? What do I do? And it's been so long. It's been months that I haven't done anything, and it just came, how am I going to get rid of this pain? I have to kill myself. And but that's what I said to myself.
That's what you were thinking.
That's what I said. It's exactly what I said. And it's just coincidence that, Mom, like, I'd been in contact with her, and she knew that I was doing horrible. She didn't know that it had gotten that bad.
Not bad, though.
But she got in contact with a guy named Pastor Ted. He was our pastor in Thompson, and at that time he lived in Brandon. I'm assuming that he still does live in Brandon.
I'm not sure.
But she gave him a call, and anyways, I had already made the decision, like, there's no way out of this pain. I have to end my life. And the one day, all of a sudden, Pastor Ted shows up in my room, knock, and in comes Pastor Ted, and I roll up and I sit, and I'm like, the sweat's coming down, and I'm barely sitting up. It's like no offense, but like I'm not happy to see him or anyone. Like I just want to lay there. Like the pain I'm in, like it's it's so much like for me to sit upright. It's just too much. And I told him outright. I said the pain that I'm in. I said nobody can take it. Like, and he could see for himself. Like I'm not doing good. Like I'm sweating bullets. I can barely sit up. And I told him. I said like I'm going to end my life. And at first he was, you know, obviously being a minister, he's like, didn't want me to go that route.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, there is no one that could withstand this. I said, I'm dead already, even if I survive. I said, I'm going to turn into a monster. Like, you know, from the memories. I didn't say from the memories, all I said is I'm going to turn into a monster. And Pastor Ted, it was a matter of 10 minutes, and it didn't matter to me what God thought, but because of the presence of a minister being in the room, like I didn't care what God thought anymore. Like I already know, like given the amount of pain I'm in, there's no way God isn't going to forgive me for it. But I asked Pastor Ted, I said, what is God going to think? I didn't care about his answer, but because of his presence, I asked.
Yeah.
And he said, in this case, God will forgive you. So that was it. For that part, there was a long pause,
Yeah.
and Pastor Ted said, have you made your decision? I said, yes. And then there was another pause, and he said, can I say a prayer for you? I said, yes.
Really?
Yeah. And he said the prayer, and it was only a matter of 10 minutes. Like, I don't know how to describe, like I've said in like already in this video, in terms of describing the amount of pain that I was in, but come on, like a minister that sees you for only about 10 minutes and like literally gives me the right, not the right, but like, you know, like approval on, you know, in this case God will forgive you. And I'm not holding anything against Pastor Ted.
No.
Like there, like my decision was made long before that, or you know, a week before that, whatever. And there was nothing that I could do. Like what I had said to him, like the amount of pain that I was in, I was dead already. Like there was no way that I could tolerate that pain anymore. So I ended up checking myself out. And the doctor that I seen at Brandon Cap, he was one of the head guys.
Okay.
And he could see that I'm not doing well, the sweat's coming down. I told him outright. Like he asked me, you know, what your plans are. And I told him outright. He asked me if I was suicidal. I said, I'm planning on ending my life. And the guy let me go. He gave a referral to somebody's, please see Mr. Larson, extreme suicidal ideation, etc., whatever. And the guy lets me go. Like I told this guy outright, like I'm gonna end my life. Like I can't take the pain that I'm in anymore. And it wasn't in terms of depression or anything. It was physical pain.
Yeah.
And I told him that. And whatever, like at the time, you know, let me go by all means. Like I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna end my life, which is what I tried to do. Yeah. And you know, now we got to get into that part. Like, you know, in terms of describing the pain, I have already said, like, the only way to describe the pain that I was in is how I tried to get out of it. And that was by ending my life. And, you know, the first attempt that I made was, I ended up, Christ, it took so much strength to do it. But I ended up getting into my car. And like I haven't slept in months by now, you know. Exhausted. You know, my blood pressure is probably still the same. My heart, I can still feel it the same way. I'm in agony.
Is
like,
this the same day you got discharged?
No. This is like on the attempt, you mean?
Yeah.
No. It took me a while before, like, because I went back home, and then I don't know. It would have been within, I don't know, half a week to a week, I would say, before I made the. No, it wasn't very long. Like. I couldn't take the pain anymore. So I thought, well, what the hell do I do? And at first I had a noose around my neck, but nowhere to hang from. So that didn't work. I tried choking myself in my own apartment. It didn't work. I didn't have the strength to do it anyways. It wasn't an attempt. It was an attempt at an attempt. It wasn't like a full, oh, well, I'm gonna hang. If I could have, I would have, but
Yeah.
like I didn't have the strength to do it. So then the other thing that I thought of was, well, I'll just get in the car if I can drive on whatever day, and I'll just either roll the car or hit something or whatever. So I headed out of Brandon towards Verdun, and I only went a couple miles, and I hung a left onto a dirt road, and I thought, well, I'll just floor it and I'll just hit the ditch or whatever. But just by chance, there was a car on that it had been abandoned, but like, well, obviously the battery had died or something,
Yeah.
and it was a blue car. So it was just by chance. So I thought, well, I'm going to try and hit this thing. But on the gravel road, like, I was only up to 80 and I was scared shitless. Like, I couldn't do it. But yet I still came back a couple of times. But the third time, within a week or whatever it was that I went, the car was gone. So obviously somebody had had picked it up and taken it home.
Physically moved it out.
Yeah, so, well, it was still running, and like, I know that because I'll tell you why. I went down the same road, and this time I thought, well, there's nobody on this road that I've ever seen. What I'll do is, I'd gotten these, they go around pipes.
Yeah.
Like, for water cooler or whatever the hell it is. Like, they're long pipes, 4, 5 feet, whatever they are, and they were gray. I taped them together, and I had 4 of them, but I would only tape 2. So I got back on that road, and I had the tubes in the exhaust, and I had wrapped the tubes into the back of in the back window.
Wow.
And I closed the window up so that it wasn't scrunched, just so that it would hold it. And I'm sitting there in the car, and I'm waiting, and I have my smoke. I figured, fuck, like, I deserve my last smoke, man. Like, like, I deserve it. And I'm going out, I know I'm dead. Like, there's no question. And I finished my fucking cigarette, and I'm still alive. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know nothing about, carbon dioxide or monoxide poisoning. I don't know how long it's. So I figure I'm gonna look. So I look, and sure as shit, the hose is kinked. It was too short, and it, the tubes, they're foam,
yeah.
and it bent.
Right.
So I'm like, I've got 2 more tubes, and I've got the 2 tubes in the exhaust, and I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll tape the other 2 and put them all together so that it's 4, so that it makes a longer loop, and the loop won't kink.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in the process of putting the other 2 together onto the other 2, and the same car that I had been trying to hit drives by, like, right by me, and they stopped. They knew what I was doing. Like, I was burned, burned. I'm caught in the act of suicide. And they stopped. It was a lady in the passenger side, and there was a guy driving. I'm sure it was the same car, like, just had to be. Anyways, they pulled over, and I just threw the tubes in, and I just jetted out of there. And then it was only a couple days more, and I ended up, like, I can't take the pain anymore. I ended up at the river, and it was one thing getting to the river, but it was another thing jumping in. I couldn't do it. Like, I got to the river, the Assiniboine River, where we used to go fishing, and there's a dam or whatever, and it falls. And I figure, well, if I can get in there, there's no way out. It was dark, it was snowing, and I shone the lights onto the part where, the river, and I turned the fucking car off, and all you could hear was the river. That's all there was, is just the river. And I couldn't even move. Like, I didn't even attempt it. It was only a couple days later, and pain's too much, and the next attempt that I made was just brutal. Like, I can't take the pain anymore. I'm willing to do almost anything except for jump in that river. And in the end, I ended up on Stickney Street in Brandon, and I picked out a green van that was way down, like, you turn on, I think it was off of 6th, or I forget what it is, but anyways, it's towards, it's a long stretch, Stickney, like, where you can get up to, like, a good speed. And I went, and it was blizzarding out that day, And I literally went and I checked to make sure that nobody was in the van. Like, I just pulled up to it, there's nobody in there. I turned around and I went back quite a ways. I turned around and I'm just scared. I started like breathing so hard, like to the point where like it's almost like my body is coming up off the seat.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what that's hype.
You're hyperventilating.
Well, whatever it was, I remember doing that 6 breaths, because after the 3rd breath, I'm like, oh my God, like, is it gonna stop? Like, you know? And sure enough, like, okay, I got my composure. And the first time I went past that van, I was doing 80. And so I hadn't gone back far enough, so I turned around. I figured there's no way, like, I have to hit this thing at least 100 in order to kill myself. And so the next time I went, I made it to 90.
Yeah.
And then I went right back to the beginning of the road, and I managed to get up to almost 110, if not 110, by the time I went by. But I couldn't hit it on the 3rd attempt. I was too scared. And on the 4th try, I went back, and it's like 50-50. Like, I don't know if I can do this or not, but I still went for it. And I just basically took off, and then I just sped up, and I made it to about 108, somewhere around there was the last time that I seen the speedometer. And during that time, like, I had the choice to make, like how, like, can I take this pain anymore or not?
Yeah,
like,
you're still in your mind. You're saying,
like, I'm still in my mind, like, can I do this anymore? And I wasn't thinking in terms of, well, can I do this for another minute, or can I do it for another week? All I was thinking is, like, I can't go through this again tomorrow. Like, I was thinking in terms of days.
Advancing,
you know, like, I can't do this tomorrow. Like, there's no way. I had all the time in the world to judge, like, you know, life or death, and even, like, almost mathematically, like, the amount of pain that I'm in, like, is it worth it to live? And the last words I said before I cranked that wheel were, fuck it. And I cranked the wheel. I hit that thing. Well, I was going, like I said, 108 when I last seen it. I hit that thing, and that was it. Like, you know, I have very little memory of, like, I don't remember hitting it, but I blacked out right before I hit. Like, just everything went black. The next thing I know, I'm being taken out by people, like paramedics, out of the car. The first thing they asked, were you wearing your seatbelt? I said, no. Like, I wasn't in shock or anything. Like, I knew what I had done. Like, the last thing I'm going to tell anybody is I hit it on purpose, like I'm trying to end my life.
Yeah.
They asked me if I'm wearing my seatbelt. No, I wasn't. And the thing is the only reason why I probably lived through that is because before before I went for the attempts with that van, I had pushed my seat right up so that my chest was right against the steering wheel. My thought was, I'm going to crush myself, which is pretty much what I almost did.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, we forgot to mention one of the things in terms of the pain was the akaesthesia, like the restlessness. Like, the restlessness in my body was just, it was another pain, like, all on its own, like having to get up and down, like, all the time. Like, it was restlessness through my entire body. And anyways, they took me into the ambulance, and they strapped my head down, my body, and my legs down, and all that restlessness, that akaesthesia, it just flowed through my body. And it was, they must have thought that I was having a seizure or convulsing or whatever. I can still hear the ambulance attendant, she's saying, don't move, you know, and there's nothing that I can do. I'm squirming for everything that I'm worth, trying to get this restlessness out. And finally I break free out of the head strap, and it's just like coming up for a big gasp of air from being underwater, just, and the restlessness went away. But like, it went away instantaneously as soon as I moved, but I went into shock. The next thing I remember, well, they're sewing up my knee. The stupid thing is, I can remember them putting that stupid needle in to freeze my knee, and they're sewing it up. But in the meantime, like, my stomach is so sore at this time, like, I know that something's wrong and something's broken. So I I'm laying there and I'm waiting for them to discharge me. Like, I'm just sitting there taking the pain in my stomach. They've already sewed up my knee and I'm laying on a cot or whatever you want to call it, and I know something's broken inside me. Like, there's no way the pain in my stomach is, I knew something was broke. I knew I was dying, and I knew outright, like, I'm bleeding to death. Whatever happened, I broke something in there bad. And it was a long time, and finally the nurse tells me, she says, you can get up and go. And I tried with everything that I had, and that was about, I don't know, oh God, it was a few minutes. Just a second, Britisher. Yeah, no, anyways, that's that's where I was. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
You were at, had your knee.
Oh, yes, and the nurse looked at me and she said, you can get up and go. And I tried, like, as much as I tried, like, I couldn't get up. My stomach was so sore. I just looked at the nurse and I said, I can't get up, my stomach is broken. And she just looked at me and she smiled and said, oh, if your stomach was broken, you'd be in a lot of pain. And all I did was I just looked at her the same, like, I didn't even turn my head. I just said, I'm in a lot of pain. And that's when she, like, realized, like, he is in a lot of pain. And they got me and they helped me up, and then they got me into that round kind of thing that takes the whatever images of the stomach, MRI. Whatever it is. And I was laying in there. And then the surgeon, after it was done, he comes in and he says, your spleen is gone. And I said, what do you mean my spleen is gone? He says, it's gone, it's destroyed. We're going to have to go in and fish pieces out of your abdomen. And I was like, I'm trying to end my life, and there's a cop there, like, at the same time, and he asked me how fast I was going. Like, this was before, like, the surgeon, and I said 50, and the cop just looked at it and he just said, there's no way you were going 50. He said, the windows in both vehicles imploded.
Wow.
Like, I hit that hard. So I'm burned, like, right there and then. Like, now how in the world did that happen? Oh, I know what I said. I said, I'm scared I'm not gonna wake up. Like, like, I didn't know. Like, the cop just asked me, like, I just got caught in a lie. The last thing I want is to say, well, I just tried to end my life.
Yeah, yeah. And
I know damn well, like, I'm gonna wake up from surgery. That was the least of my concerns. Anyways, I wake up and I just figured, well, I'd have, like, stitches in my stomach or whatever, and it wasn't like that. I ended up, like, there was a tube down my throat, I had a catheter, blood transfusions, IVs, there was, like, so much stuff, like, everywhere,
Yeah.
And the surgeon came in and he says, we got, all the pieces of the spleen and everything. He says, but you hit so hard that we had your colon separated and we had to put a stitch in there.
Wow.
Like, in order to get out of that pain that I was in, that I can't describe in words, I literally tore myself a new asshole to try and get out of that pain. Like, literally. Like, how else do you explain that, Like I said, the pain that I was in, as well as the exhaustion, like, it can't be explained in words. The only thing that I can say is, like, by the time that I hit that van, it had been months since I had slept. And my pulse and my heart rate, or pulse and blood pressure, like, my pulse was pounding the same way as it had, since the ECT. It had gotten worse, actually, like, from the time from the first admittance to the second one, where it was just like, I can't take the pain anymore. But the pain that I was in, like, it reached a point where, like, it didn't get any worse, it didn't get any better. Like, it was just non-stop and no sleep. Like, that was 2 weeks that I did in the hospital in Brandon, like, with the tube down my throat. The 2 fucking easiest weeks that I did during that whole time, like, from start of being in Brandon Center to the end.
Yeah.
In terms of a 2-week period, those were the 2 easiest weeks that I had, because they were giving me Demerol on one, they'd give me a shot of Demerol, then 4 hours later they'd give me Tylenol 3, and then 4 hours later Demerol, and every time I was falling asleep. So
you were getting caught up on your sleep a little bit.
Well, sure, but as soon as they discharged me, well, I ended up going back
Where was that pain after the accident? Mostly abdominal pain, or where?
Well, there was pain from the accident itself, like the spleen. Yeah, I had pain there, but that pain I could care less about. I'm talking the pain once I was released, like, and not on the Demerol and not sleeping. I went back to not sleeping at all. I ended up getting back to my, like, I was still with the girl, and I ended up back at her place, and there was no sleep whatsoever until I got, like, it ended up like it was another, God knows how long, another month and a half. Like, once I was discharged from the hospital, pulse is, or heart rate is just pounding, no sleep, restless. I was literally up and down off the couch. I wasn't even able to sit there for 5 minutes straight. I was only talking a term of a couple minutes, and I would have to literally get up and walk the restlessness off. And I literally did that, Britisher, for probably a month and a half straight, until finally I just got desperate and I tried to end my life in my girlfriend's garage by carbon monoxide with my car. And that story, when I told Pastor Ted how that failed, like, my God, he was in shock. He just went back, like, this is years later in 2007 when I told him, you're here for a reason. And I'll tell you that story. I've told you this before, but my Camaro, I had a red Camaro. It was a 1991 5-liter, 5-speed. It was top of the line, like, you know, whatever. And but the thing is in the winter, it would only take a few, like, it was only a short time, and the stupid battery would always die. And the next year, like, you know, to come summer, I'd always have to get a new battery for it. I wasn't an auto guy, like, you know, I didn't know, take the battery out for winter or whatever. Yeah. So this is the middle of the winter. My Camaro is parked in her garage, and I'm desperate to the point where, like, I can't do it anymore again. Like, this is too much. I've been awake for a month and a half since I've been out of that hospital.
Was it still pain, or was it just a lack of sleep? And what would you say? What was making you desperate, I guess? Yeah.
Well, the amount of exhaustion and the restlessness, like having to get up, like, I literally, like I said, like a month and a half without sleep.
Okay, so carry on.
It was painful, but to describe the pain, I can describe it like, it feels like current in my body, like electrical current or something like that, just pulsing through, and restlessness and no sleep whatsoever. Like, I'm begging to die at this point. Like, my God, I'll do anything at this point. Probably even would have jumped in the river at this point. And anyways, I get into the garage, and I thought, like, there's no way this car is going to start. It's like middle of winter already. Like, it's not going to start. Well, for Christ's sake, I turn the key, and the fucking thing starts. It didn't hesitate. It didn't it just and it went. I'm thinking, holy shit! Like, I'm out, and the entire garage, like, the exhaust comes out, and the entire garage fills with smoke. Like, it was a small garage. My car fits in there perfectly. Barely any room on the sides. Like, it was a small garage, like, suitable for one car. Like, and so I'm thinking, okay, like, this will do it. But then again, like, you know, and this is going to sound really bad, but you have to understand, like, how much pain I was in. I went back into the house because I wanted my last fucking cigarette. I go into the house, and one of her kids, he says, what are you doing? I'm just looking at my car. And I thought of it, like, you know, oh my, like, you know, somebody's going to find me, you know. But the pain was overwhelming. Like, by the time I had thought of it, I finished my smoke, and, like, it was not thought of again. Like, it's not that I didn't care who found me, but it's just, I couldn't, like, there was nothing that I could do. There's just too much pain. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. Mm-hmm. And I go in there, into the garage. I go through the side door. I go in there, and there's no smoke. Like, it's just dissipated. Like, the car is still running, but, like, the smoke, like, it's gone. So I'm thinking, well, there's a hole in the garage. It's about a foot, and I don't know, a foot high and a half foot wide. And there was a tarp in the garage, and I thought, well, I'll cover it up. And I just didn't know what the hell to think. Like, I don't know anything about carbon monoxide or you know, like did it all. I couldn't have, I guess, but so I come to the conclusion that, well, this car has been running for a minimum of 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. What I'll do is I'll turn the car off and I'll start it again to get the initial exhaust, like, you know, the smoke again. Well, I didn't know nothing about it. Like, so I turn the car off and I go to click it, nothing. The car is dead. Like, it just died. Like, it didn't just die, like it just wouldn't start again. It didn't go click, 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 click.
Starter or whatever.
Nothing. It was just dead. And that is literally, in terms of what I felt, I'll tell you outright, it was 100% the outright fear of God. There's no other way to say it, because that's what I felt, was the fear of God. And one thing I will say about those 15 seconds that they had me strapped down after I hit that van, like in the ambulance, during those 15 seconds, let's put it this way, if I would have been offered a deal with the devil, I would have taken it. And to this day, I would have had no choice, even knowing, like, you know, well, the pain that you're in is only going to last for 4 years. Like, could you do it again? Like, even for my dog? It's a question that I don't know.
You wouldn't know. It's hard to answer.
I don't know.
Wow.
But, you know, like, obviously, there's a little more to this. Like, I got off track. I know I did, but I did all right. But I'm just saying, like, you know, all I can say to those, like, you know, whoever did that overdose on me, like the amount of pain that it caused me, like, and for how long, like, you know, I went after that attempt, you know, my mom, like, I phoned my mom, and she knew that I was suicidal, like, after the attempt in the garage, and my buddy Wayne came over, and they confronted me, and he said, "Did you hit that van on purpose?" And I just broke. I said, "I hit it with everything I had." And Wayne took me in extremely suicidal. Like, you know, this was after the garage thing. Like, you know, they knew that I was trying to end my life in the garage. He took me in extremely suicidal. They gave me passes the next day at Brown and Cap. And the only thing I did, I took a cab. I went to Poulin's Exterminators and I got rat poison. I figure, I gotta get out of this. Like, there's nothing I can do. What the hell else resort can I do? I went to Poulin's and I told the cab driver, I said, "Just stay, I won't be long." I get in there and I asked about the rat poison, and I said, "Which one works better?" Because they had an option of pellets or powder.
Okay.
And he said, "The pellets work better." And I asked why, and he said, "Because the rats like the taste of it better." And I said, "Which one works faster?" And he said, "The powder." So I bought the powder. I bought a big box, and I couldn't smuggle it into Brown and Cap. Like, I got back in the cab and they took me back to Brown and Cap. Well, I couldn't take the box in, so I took the bag out of the box. It had a, what do you call it, clip on, not a clip, twist tie, whatever the hell, or a clip. So I hid it in my jacket and I waited. Like, I put it in my drawer, and this was around 3 o'clock the next day, like, you know, on that day. And Wayne comes in to see me that night at 6 o'clock, and he knew that I was suicidal, and he didn't want to know when I was going to do it or how, you know, and he had already told me, "I'm not going to tell you how to do it." And he comes in and I tell him, like, "I got rat poison." And he's just, "What do you mean you have rat poison? I just brought you in here yesterday. Like, what's going on?" Like, he didn't say what's going on, but I mean, like, literally, like, that's a question for the public. What's going on here? Anyways, I've got the rat poison there, and he says, "I'm not going to tell you how to do it." And I said, "Well, will you at least tell me what will work and what won't?" And he agreed to that. And he said, "Yes, it'll work." And then I was happy with that, but then a few more seconds later he says, "But you could end up blind instead." The only thing that shoots through my mind is, fuck, how do I end my life if I'm blind? But this, I'm not holding anything against Wayne or anything like that, but in terms of describing the pain as well as my appearance, like, you know, how I must have looked, and exhausted, and sweat pouring down like from everywhere on my upper body anyways, and down like into my waistline.
Yeah.
It was obvious to anyone that I was in extreme pain.
You were really suffering.
I even remember, like, I did end up seeing a lady, her name was Cindy Hogue, and I was literally, like, you know, sitting in front of her, and I was just like pouring sweat, and she told me, she says, "It looks like you're on drugs." Well, I'm in your center. Like, I said, "I'm not on drugs." She says, "I know you're not." Like, but the simple thing, not the simple thing, but in order to explain, like, my appearance and the amount of pain that I was in, like, my own best friend is not telling me how, but he's telling me what will work and what won't. Like, you know,
Wow.
like, I don't even know. Like, I've missed so much on this. I've gotten nerved up because
What
talking
happened
about
with the
this.
rat poison? Did you?
Well, that's a good story. The rat poison sat in there for I don't know how long, because once Wayne told me that, I was just like, holy crap.
You
Like,
didn't want
I'm
to use
like,
it,
well,
it didn't work.
50-50, like, you know, it's going to come to a point where, yeah, I probably will take it, but it's going to be an awful long time. I'm laying in there, and it was my mum who came. Nobody checked on me, Britisher, in terms of no one ever came into my room, not once the entire year that I was in and out of there, probably in there for 6 to 8 months in total. Not one person comes into my room, "Oh, you know, maybe you should eat something today." I can't even imagine, like, the amount of days that I went where I didn't eat even one meal in that place. Like, you wouldn't even be talking in terms of, in the amount of total time would be probably in the month range, where there was 30 days, like, during that year period in and out of Brown and Cap, where I didn't eat a single thing. Like, the neglect, like, was ridiculous, like, just crazy. There was only one time when I was sitting out, like, I think it was in the cafeteria, and there was one lady, and this was after I had hit the van and I'm admitted, like, highly suicidal, and I got rat poison sitting in my room. And she sat down and right in front of me, and she asked me, she said, "Sean, did you hit that van on purpose?" And I'm just, no, like, I'm just like even to talk is like, you know, I'm just struggling to talk, like, and I'm just, no, okay, you know, and she didn't push it. In the meantime, I'm suicidal as hell. I got rat poison in my room. The last thing I'm going to tell anybody is, yeah, I hit that van on purpose. You know, because I'm trying to end my life.
Yeah.
Well, I had an awful lot more to say about, you know, Brandon Cap, but I'm not able to do that right now because I missed out a lot of stuff, but I got most of it out. But, you know, at the end of all of it, it got to the point where, you know, there were periods of time. I remember when Wayne took me in there, after I'd attempted to end things in the garage, and the only thing that I told the staff, I said, "I haven't slept in months, I need to sleep," and they gave me Zopiclone, and I started to sleep. Like, you know, I got one night of fucking sleep that night, and I don't remember sleeping again until finally the patients went for help for me. They had already went to the staff, and they told him outright. I remember Sandra told me, she says, "We told him Sean needs help or he's going to die." And Maria was the one that they talked to, and, well, Sean needs to help himself. Sean can't even barely stand up and walk. He's not eating, he's not nothing. He can barely talk, and he's going to help himself. And the only one group that I went to in terms of group therapy, I finally went, I'm sitting there, and I'm just waiting for it to be over. It was an hour group. And instead of the group being about a group discussion on help, the patients were complaining about the neglect that was shown. Like, they were all on the opinion, like, nobody's doing anything here to help us. Like, all you guys do, and it was said, all you guys do is sit there and have coffee in your staff room. None of us are being talked to. And so the discussion went from, instead of being a group therapy thing, all the patients that were in the group had a chance to voice their opinion about the neglect of the staff. And the first person had their chance to say, and then the next person, he just outright said it. He said, Sean needs help. And it was the same nurse, Maria. Sean needs to help himself. And that's when the patients went on my behalf and started to get me help. And Sandra came up to me and she said, there's somebody that wants to talk to you or wants to say something to you or give you something, whatever it was. And I said, okay. And the lady, I don't remember her, anyways, she said, Sean, there is no hope. You have no hope. You have enough faith. You don't need any more. Charity does you no good. This is exactly what you need. Do you want to get that?
Just for a second.
Okay, so anyways, she hands me this little, it's not a pendant, I don't know what you call it. It's like a round oval shaped thing, and it had a female figure on it, looked like could be an angel almost. I still have it. And I turned it over, and on the back of it in capital letters is written strength. And the only thing I can think of is I have no strength. She's right, but I have no strength. I don't have any strength. The only strength I'm looking for is to end my life. But that was it. And Sandra finally, she just said, Sean, she says, anything. What do you need? We're going to help you. What do you need? And I just told Sandra, I said, I haven't slept in months. I need sleep. I need marijuana. That was the only thing that I could think of that's going to help me in terms of sleep. And she just said, okay, we'll get you some marijuana. And that was when I finally started to improve. She got me the marijuana. The first night that she got it, or the first day, I guess, I took it that night to sleep. Christ. How I rolled that stuff is my hands were shaking so bad, I could barely, it dumped on the floor the first time in the bathroom and I couldn't roll it, but I did manage to get it. But the first night that I took it, I hadn't smoked dope since I'd been admitted into Brandon Camp. A long time. And I took it, and holy Christ, did I get stoned for the first, just it was the first time I'd ever smoked dope. And it was not a good feeling because it affected my heart even worse. So I had my puff outside, and I walked, and I did take my meds, and I went straight to my room, and instead of laying on my side, my heart was pounding so much that I literally sat upright in the bed, and I ended up passing out. And when I did wake up, there was no yawning or anything like that and getting tired. It just went from just black, sitting up and then just black. And I woke up and I knew that I had slept. But the thing is when the night, after I had smoked it, my heart was affected so much that I was so scared, it had hurt, my heart was pounding just ridiculous. I ended up throwing it out. I told Sandra the next day, oh, I did sleep, but I threw it out. What? And I said, we have to get some more. And she said, okay, we'll get some more. So I ended up going on the pass with her, and we went over to to a girl's place, and she phoned a guy, and it ended up, I bought 2 8s. They were $45 each, and went back, and that's when I finally did start getting some sleep and started to see some improvement. Okay, and that's when I finally started eating. Bretecher, for a month and a half, during that, I guess it would have been the second, or I don't even know which admission. It went for probably a month and a half, anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, where the only meal that I was eating before the marijuana was 4 slices of toast with butter and one of those little packets of peanut butter and one little packet of jam. That is all that I ate for a period of 4 to 6 weeks.
Can be good nutrition.
Well, I was lucky to even eat that. And then with the marijuana, all of a sudden, you go 24 hours without eating. Well, all of a sudden, instead of 4 slices, I'm eating 8. And then with continued, throughout, I started sleeping a little bit better. I would get a couple hours of sleep each time I used the marijuana. And it just got to the point where I started eating like every meal except for breakfast.
Yeah.
And I was able, like, with the marijuana and like getting that, even the few hours of sleep that I was getting, instead of being in my room, I was able to finally sit up in the TV room.
Yeah.
But that's all that I could do. Like, there was no walking around or anything like that. But I was admitted, like, the third admittance that I had was after I had attempted to end it in the garage, and I had checked myself out, like, after, because I was using marijuana during that third time, and I checked myself out. Well, immediately I went back to, like, no sleep, so I ended up, within a short time I was back in there, and I had no marijuana at all. Like, I didn't have a chance to get it. At one point I had like, I'd gotten from they had told me, like, the one guy that was helping me out with marijuana in the center, like, there was so much marijuana going on in that place, and we never even mentioned the time that the patients got drunk yet.
No.
Like, talk about negligence. But anyways, like, there was a point in time where I'm sitting in my room and I got an ounce of dope in my room. Like, you're yelling at me, like, that I stink because I've only showered 3 times in your facility in 6 to 8 months, and you guys are wondering about neglect. Reason why I didn't shower is because it was too fucking painful. Like, to put my hands over my head in that shower, they had this orange soap and it smelled like medication. It was just thin stuff, like, it was just, and I showered 3 times, Britisher, and the third time that I showered, I'm laying on my right side, and this lady comes in. She was one of the nurses, and she just, in, like, loud, she says, "Get out of bed. It's not so bad." And I did everything to turn over onto my left side, and I did.
Yeah.
Just everything to turn over on my left side. She ran around the bed and just screamed, "It stinks in here." All the patients heard, all the staff heard, and in the end, I had to walk the hallway again, and I went out and everything else.
Help you at all?
No help whatsoever. And then Maria comes up to me. I'm sitting on my bed. "Are you gonna shower today?" "Yes." "Yeah." And that was the third shower. That was the only shower. 3 showers the entire time that I was there, Britisher.
Wow.
3 fucking showers. What am I supposed to say to all this?
Well, that's what you're saying. So it's recorded, so that
Yeah. Well, at least I got it out. But
yeah.
This part of the interview didn't go nearly as smooth as I thought it was going to go.
Well, I think there's so many things that happened. There was a lot of days there.
Well, it's not even days. I'm talking
weeks
and months.
So it's hard to put it into summarize it. So
well,
I'll miss something.
The thing about this story is what happened to me in Brandon is one thing, in terms of the amount of pain and everything. But Jesus, when they discharged me from Brandon, like, I was once again, like, not eating, not nothing. Like, I didn't have any dope, like, during the 4th admission. I couldn't get it. Like, who in the hell am I going to get it from? The other people are already gone. So I'm fully awake for God knows how long again, probably a month and a half, 2 months. And they called a meeting in Brandon for my mom and Wayne to be there. And then they called me into the room, and the only thing that Dr. Mano said, and I remember her words exactly, she didn't even look at me. She just she had her head just down, and all she says, "We've done all we can do to help you. We cannot help you anymore. Good luck." And I'm telling you, Britisher, Mom drove me home from Brandon to Dauphin. And other than the hell ride that I had when I hit the van, that was the worst trip that I've ever had. It's just like, oh my God, like, how much longer can I sit upright like this? Like, I can't take it anymore. And I just remember, like, getting home, and that's all I did, Britisher, was just crash on, like, in my mom's bedroom where there was a mattress on the floor. And in terms of sleep, we'll get to, that, like, that year that I spent in Brandon there.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like, it was bad, but the rest of what I went through the next 3 years under Sandu's care, a hell of a lot worse, and that's where I'm going to leave it for today.
Okay.
Because that's just too much.
Yeah, no, that's enough. We want to keep it in sections and reasonable length. That's good.
But I had a couple questions in terms of, like, well, not question on the first one, but in terms of like describing that, like after that one ECT, after the fourth ECT, like the amount of heat like that I felt in my body and my pulse, like, and my blood pressure, like what in the hell did they do? Like, and within like a period of a couple months or 3 months, all my hair like on the top of my head, like it turned white and fell out. Like male pattern baldness doesn't just happen in a matter of months. Like what did they do to me?
The amount of heat, and it's almost like you're saying like electrical current, but you like how many days before you could move properly, like where you could move your arms and legs? Okay, was it just that one day, that 30 hours?
Yes, and after that, well, it wasn't properly. It was hard as hell to do anything, but in terms of being paralyzed, no, I could still function.
It's hard to differentiate. Was it the anesthetic that created most of the trouble? It certainly was that initial 30 hours. That had to be the anesthetic.
Yeah.
This heat you describe in your body, and then the hair loss and the hair color discoloration. Was that the ECT, the electroshock that damaged your brain, or was it the anesthetic, the paralysis of the anesthetic? It could be a combination of both, is what I would think. But it could have been one that was just way too much. But the ECT treatment doesn't sound like it was abnormal.
No, I don't think so either. No, it's
because your mind was still pretty functional.
No, my mind was functional. I was just in
you knew
excruciating
you knew
pain.
What was happening. It was the physical.
No,
I
was never at a point where there was any, I don't know, brain lapse or anything like that. Like I was fully aware of everything.
The anesthetic, to me, trying to piece this, as best we can, had to be the complicating factor. That it affected your hair, it affected your electrical shock in your body, and it just, it caused some nerve damage, big time.
Big time. Well, you even like I don't know if it was last year or the year before or whatever, like I still sweat like abnormally to this day.
Yeah.
I know, like, and you gave me whatever pills they were
to try and stop it.
I asked you, I said, are you sure I won't sweat? Oh, you won't sweat. And I still sweat. Like it didn't do a thing to me.
Yeah. So that's your nervous system that's not functioning properly.
That is my nervous system then. I don't know what to say about that. I just
something we could research, but I don't. It's hard to piece to put it together. Again, we're not sure what you had for an anesthetic there, but
yeah.
But anyhow, yeah. Okay, well, we can leave it there. Was there another question? I think you had two questions.
Oh no, it was just the white hair, and I just wanted to mention like three.
I don't think it goes along with the anesthetic causing the nervous system damage.
Yeah, that's irreversible.
Yeah.
There's nothing, I know that, I've known that for years. I'm forced now to spend most of my life indoors. I know that, like a very high percentage. Like even in the most moderate heat, even yesterday it was 3 degrees out. I go for a walk with my dog, very slow walk because he stops for every tree, and I'm sweating. Like, I don't even know, and it was like, I don't even know how to say it, like I'm sweating even a little bit now, like. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. Take my hoodie off on my sweater, like I'm covered in sweat. Like it's tough, man. Like I don't know. That's all that I wanted to say. But like I'm gonna say one more thing. Like in terms of ever describing the amount of pain that went through my body, I will never be able to do it. It would have to be done, but like the only thing, the way that it could be explained would be to have somebody else who'd been through the same thing.
So you'd understand what you.
So you'd understand, and even still, we wouldn't be able to find the words.
No.
Because
it almost sounds like every nerve in your body was overstimulated.
Well, something definitely, because like my muscles have never returned like to normal. Like it's the same thing. Like I did try working out years ago, like to try and gain some strength back, but there's just no way. Like I'm good for one set. And after that, it's just like I can't keep up with anyone. Like we just had friends over, and like I'm good for one set. After that, it's like
your stamina, your resistance is
the recuperation.
Very short. Yeah, your recovery is very short.
The recovery. One thing I can do is walk. That is the only form of exercise that I can do now, and I'm happy for that. Yeah. Like but we'll talk about. Judy and Dr. Sandu next, like after all this, like I came forward to Judy at the 4th floor, and that was, I guess, in 2004, about what I had been through. She sat down in front of me because, like, I'd been visited by Eleanor Snitka, and like they determined I needed to be in the hospital because I was a risk. Well, I'm in so much pain still. Yeah, like, you know, I agree, I am suicidal. And Judy came and she sat in front of me in the TV room, and all she said was, "Sean, why did you hit that van?" And I told her this story, and I figured, you know, she's going to go to Dr. Sandhu and I'm going to get help. And in the end, it happened just like Pastor said that it would in 2007. You know, this is much later, but it was covered up. Like, I never got a diagnosis. It was never talked to me again. And throughout the years, since I've seen Sandhu and all this, it's been nothing but Brandon this, Brandon that. And to this day, I don't even have a diagnosis for PTSD from a psychiatrist.
No.
Like, that is retarded. Like, come on. He refused to talk to me. And then the fact, after everything that I've been through with ECTs, that man forces me through ECTs again against my will. And every member of staff remembers the amount of fuss that I put up when he said that to me, because they were pleading with him, why ECTs, why? And he got mad, typical Sandhu fashion, because they were the only thing that worked for you in Brandon. And I just, what? And not one member of staff stood up for me, not nothing. They've all known what I've been through with the other ECTs. And this man is not only suggesting it to me, no man in their right or wrong mind would suggest ECTs to me after that. Like, there was no way that ECTs could benefit me. Brandon did the damage, but in terms of the memories, Sandy might as well have taken a brand just like a cow and branded it right into my brain.
I don't know if it, you know, what he was. I don't know if he didn't see things in perspective.
Well, I know what his perspective was, because after he gave me those ECTs, he followed it up with the next appointment. Oh, well, if all those things happen to you and Brandon, then why did you sign up for ECTs? And I just looked at him. I said, you forced me through those ECTs against my will. I told you it was too hot, I couldn't sleep, and I needed to go home. Oh, nobody forced you. I looked at him, I said, you forced me through those ECTs. I did not sign willingly. And just magically, like, how can he go from, well, he gave me those ECTs, I don't know, in 2006 or whatever. He's treated me with medication, over $100,000 worth of medication already, and only now, Sandhu, are you coming to the conclusion that, oh, medication doesn't work for you and now ECTs? Okay, $100,000 worth of medication to begin with, then put me through electroshock therapy, and then after that put me on another $100,000 worth of pills. And still no diagnosis of PTSD? Come off it. We'll talk about that another time, but I had to get that out.
No, I don't.
And the one person that I have a grievance with, I have a grievance with Sandhu for doing that. But in terms of outright, like, who caused me the most, probably the most pain, in terms of trying to get help for myself, is Judy. She asked me, I confided in her finally, thought I'm going to get help, and no help whatsoever. It was kept hush hush and hush hush until now, until this story is coming out. So I don't see how in the world Sandhu had any, like, the only reason that he did it was to say to me outright, oh, well, if those things happen to you and Brandon, well, why did you sign for ECTs? That was his only reason for giving me those ECTs. And oh, magically, yeah, oh, the ECTs worked, we'll discharge him. Sandhu's full of shit.
Yeah.
He is. There's no other way to say it. Those ECTs, the only thing that they could have done was what they did, and it made my PTSD worse. And that's when I first started coming forward in 2007, and when I got on the radio and Brandon, and then lawyers got involved because I started coming with this story. Well, let's put it this way, if this story isn't true, then why is it that Brandon Center for Adult Psychiatry sent 4 lawyers after me, you know, threatening me with slander? By all means, slander away. I told them outright, I have your client, Dr. Mano, by the balls. It's only a matter of time before I come forward with this story. They can't slander me.
Mhm.
They can't slander me for nothing.
No,
So,
nothing. No, nothing. You didn't do anything.
no. Anyways, I'm done, man. I'm exhausted from this.
Yeah,
So
we'll leave it at that, then we can shut it off for tonight.
yeah,
And
and we'll just. I know, like I said, I knew this was going to be difficult, and I knew that I was going to be talking about, attempts that I made on my life. So, if I sound a little rusty or things aren't exactly 100% here and there.
I think your recall was actually pretty good, because this happened a long time ago. So
Oh yeah, I know, but we haven't even gotten to the bad parts. Like, we have in some way, but those 3 years that I spent, we'll talk about the amount of time that I was awake and fully conscious for that nervous system pain.
Okay.
And that's where we'll end off.
Okay, all right.
Thanks.
Okay.